Well, being a piper, obviously, initially the first thinking of traditional music for me is the pipes and the music of the pipes, but there's everything else that's kind of informed that as well along the way. So in my own background, my parents being Gaelic speakers were interested and keen on Gaelic music and Gaelic song and very traditional style Gaelic singing and all that. But also, I suppose, growing up in the area of the sort of Jimmy Shand and Jim MacLeod and all the dance bands and things like that, which were, I guess, popular in their day. Again, that was music that my parents liked. You know, my mother always very fond of accordion and dance band music. I would say less commercialised style of playing from guys like Ian McLaughlin and Rebecca, who played in the button keyed box, and Fergie MacDonald, who had a different sort of West Coast style, maybe to the sort of Jimmy Shand style of dance bands, you know. So that's all of that to me is Scottish traditional music, and of course the emergence of the sort of Celtic bands and everything that you had, you know, the folk bands, and, which through my lifetime become much more popular and to the fore, you know, but bands like Capercaillie, which, you know, I suppose it encapsulates, as I say, a huge big kind of melting pot of everything that's uniquely Scottish. So, some aspects of what used to be commonly received as being Scottish traditional music, like the dance band and the, you know, the Kenneth McKellners and the Peter Morrisons, you know, there was very much this sort of old sort of, you know, that style of Scottish traditional music that would be seen on the old kind of Hogmanay programmes and things like that. It's kind of become a bit corny to a lot of people now. And I think it's kind of been replaced with, you know, a less, what's the word I'm looking for, less showy style of presentation. Well, it's a difficult one to answer. I mean, I've obviously had quite a long spell at playing the pipes and brought up in a very sort of, you know, in an era when it wasn't cool to play the pipes at all. So, and also at the time, you know, it was just at that cusp where it used to be the opinion was you either played with a band or you played as a solo competitor. So, well, at my time, people might have thought, oh, he's doing both, he's playing in a pipe band and solos, he's doing. Now, you can look at it nowadays and say, well, even at that, there's still a fairly narrow sort of range of things to be doing, because the younger pipers now are picking up other instruments, you know, whistles, and they're getting involved in folk bands. And there's probably a greater spectrum for younger people now to develop their musical interests, or I wouldn't say the greater spectrum, it's just more available to younger people to develop their sort of piping interest. Again, that's a funny one, because I think, sadly, the audience for traditional purist piping, if you call it that, you know, Peebrach, March to Spain, you know, the live audiences at the Northern Meeting, or for example, competitions like the Euston Barra, used to be heaving. Actually, as a boy, I used to go to these things, and you would feel as if the walls were pulsating practically with the people, you know, stamping their foot, not stamping their foot, but you know, when the jig competitions would be on or whatever, or you know, the big March to Spain deal at the Northern Meeting, the Eden Court Theatre would be more or less full for the former winners March to Spain deal, but you don't see it like that now. The global audience seems to be bigger in many ways, and the participation is much greater. So it's a funny one, because see, there's certainly more people getting out and doing it, and then things like live streaming, and you see the global audience that's there for the live stream of, say, the Glenfiddich or the World Pipe Band Championships or whatever. I think the audience for pipe bands has not dwindled. I think that's growing.
Aye.
But the audience for solo piping is not as good as it was.
It was.
But that's really hard to pinpoint. I suppose we instinctively know what's Scottish because we are Scottish, but it would have to be related to, obviously, the language. If we're talking about anything relating to song or anything that's come from the language that's informed the music that we play on the instruments, it has to be partly the dance, because when we play Strathspeys, for example, that would be kind of uniquely Scottish, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
With the sort of typical Strathspey snappy rhythm or whatever. I mean, we're talking about this from the point of view of a musician and somebody who knows and has grown up with it.
Huh.
You recognise it.
Right.
Necessarily, or maybe more easily than a lay person who's been brought up listening to Madonna or something like that.
So a lot of it's about your experience.
It's your experience, I guess, your knowledge of the culture. If you've been out and you've been listening to Céilís, you've been listening to song and watching dance. If you play the pipes, you have that experience that you recognise the different characteristics.
Right.
Well, I'd like to think that the future is stronger, and I think it's going that way. I think Scottish traditional music is stronger than it's been. I feel in my lifetime. There are more festivals, there are more people participating, not just in piping it would seem, but there seems to be, ever more young bands out there performing. There are more young people.